Good morning, good evening, good afternoon on this very windy, not sunny day, which is not ideal. But today, guys, I am going to be running you through how to not fall over when it's extremely windy, exercise, how to keep your muscle in a deficit, so how to train in a deficit. Do we need to fucking change everything? No. Probably not is the short answer there. So if that's all you were coming for, that is not what you need from this video. But yeah, how to keep your muscle mass, what we need to do volume wise, do we need to adjust rep ranges, exercise selection, anything like that, we will cover to make sure that your diet phase goes as best as physically possible. Meal one is done and dusted. That was the oats, whey, raspberries and a little bit of dark chocolate there. That is the new breakfast, simply because I got very bored of eating eggs every single day, and they take like half an hour to cook, whereas that I can prep the night before if I'm out early the next day for PTs or anything like that. Take that with me. That's nice and easy. I could even blend it up as a shake and drink that at the time if I needed to. So we will not miss. Your boy does not fucking miss. I have listened to JP and that is what he says. So first topic is, what do we need to do to retain muscle in a deficit? Pretty much what you did to grow it. You're just eating less calories. You're not going to have as many resources to grow. So your body isn't going to have that extra surplus that it needs. But the vast majority of what you're doing in terms of having good technique, in terms of getting close to failure, controlling your reps, all of that stuff, setting up exercises well, should stay very similar. And you guys will see that when it comes to what we're going to be doing in the training session, which is going to be pushed today. And if you scroll back 2 months ago to the first video that I sort of posted of this, when I started doing YouTube videos weekly, of programming your perfect push session or something catchy like that, it will be fairly similar. I'm just doing less volume. That's the main difference. And obviously I'm at a different gym, but the overall exercises that I'm doing are very similar. Let's do a converging fly. Let's do a converging incline fly. This is not all in the session. This is across the week between my push and my upper sessions. Then we've got the same sort of thing with some higher incline presses, some flat presses, maybe a decline press, depending upon kit availability. The overarching thing is very similar. The only time you need to change your exercises is maybe towards the end, or if you go to a different gym. So we might look at, say, taking out a barbell RDL if you're getting really lean. I'm talking photo shoot contest prep condition, where you're just not going to have enough fat to stabilize those big movements, and it feels incredibly taxing to do so. Whereas you could do something like a 45-degree hip extension using way less load, but you can still get a great stimulus in the glutes and the hamstrings, and that's going to be plenty to keep that muscle mass around for a while. Just me interjecting while editing this at a random point in the video. But if you're enjoying this so far, please make sure to share it with your other cool bodybuilding mates. And obviously, if you hate it, dislike, hate comments, please, that boosts us up in the algorithm. Meal 2 is also done and dusted. You guys must get incredibly bored of seeing the same meals every single day. But that's what I like to eat. I'm a robot. That's fine. Captain Jack Murray in the background here. We've also got Baby Lactic in the background. Yeah, it's time for push now. So I've just finished up that meal. I'm going to dive into the session very shortly. Get over there, quick warm up and all of that good stuff, which you will see. But when it comes to the deficit and adjusting the volume, like I mentioned, what I would look to do is pull the volume down on the most fatiguing exercises first. So if you're doing 2 or 3 sets of an RDL, maybe we reduce that a little bit. And then just pull it down fairly evenly from there. Obviously, it's a push day, so I might pull down my presses. I could keep the flies somewhat where they are, but it's pretty much a reduction across the board. Because when you're in a deficit, say this was your sort of minimum effective volume, the least amount you needed to do in a surplus. That's going to rise a tiny bit when you're in a deficit because you've got less food availability. But the max amount that you can recover from, which is probably somewhere around here, say, that you should have been doing when you're in a surplus, is also going to drop a little bit because you've got less food. So that window of volume is going to change a little bit. And that's something that you just need to pay attention to. And the best proxy to work out if you're doing too much or too little volume is, are you progressing? Because if you're progressing, then you're recovered and you're adapted from your previous session. If you're not progressing, then you haven't recovered from that previous session, or what you did was simply too much or too little to cause adaptation. And you'll know that simply off the basis of, oh, I'm doing 4 sets for my chest across the week and I'm not progressing. Maybe we need
First exercise of this session is some straight leg calf raises, doing lengthened partials here because I don't want to ruin my Jordans. In all seriousness though, I do get some issues with my ankles and my shins when I go like all the way up to the top. So I found these work a little bit better for me recently, at least. There's nothing special about doing these standard. It's literally just because this is the machine that I chose to do for this training rotation. You could also do them sat down on a leg press, or if you've got like a calf press type of thing, you could also use that. That is absolutely fine. But main thing to think about is getting a nice deep stretch, coming up to roughly the same point each time, and I just use when the front of my foot is flat with the platform as the marker for. And obviously this isn't a glute exercise, but I must say they are looking absolutely stupendous. So 2 sets of 20 reps there, or aiming for 20 reps. You know, if it's 22, if it's 19, nobody's going to die. I would rather get close to failure than have shit form. Also got 2 sets on the shoulder press. However, I've got a lower repper and a higher repper because, you know, top set, back off is the only way to do it. No other way of building muscle mass works. I'm clearly being sarcastic here, guys. You'll also see on the shoulder press that I'm actually sat a little bit forward, and that's just because if I try and like get my arms into that shoulder press position without the handles there to almost pull me backwards, I can't get to that range, and thus it doesn't make so much sense to force my body into that sort of position. So I sit forward a little bit, I create a little bit of an arch in my upper back and cue to keep my elbows underneath those handles as I go through the reps, and these are feeling absolutely lovely on the Nautilus press. I wasn't able to film my lateral raise just due to the setup of the gym and how busy it was, but I've only got 1 in this session because my side delts are a pretty strong point, so I'm training them 3 times a week at the moment, 1 exercise in each session and 2 to 3 sets on each with a couple of intensifiers. Now we've got a chest press here, and I absolutely love this old school flex piece because you see those grey bits with the little black handle sticking up. That allows you to adjust the range in your start position so that you can truly make the machine fit you, and it feels absolutely superb. Once again, I've got a top set and a back off there, and I'll load that so that I fall on the lower end of the rep range for both of those because it's the first press of the movement. I'm feeling a little bit stronger there, and that's just one of the examples of how you can sort of manipulate your training based on how you're feeling. And then I have got 2 sets of a cuff clavicular fly. You'll see how my arm is coming very much across and up. It's not just fully across the body, although I could bring it there, but it would literally be lining up with the middle fibers at the pec, and that is not what we want here. So 15 to 20 reps, again, absolutely disgusting, but these high reppers give you a pump like nothing else. You may also notice the little grey attachments I've got on there between the cuffs and the cable, and that's just so the start position for me, fairly similar to adjusting it on the press, is within a good amount of range, and I'm not having to fight the weight up, which can get pretty challenging once you get reasonably strong on these. And the final exercise is triceps blood flow restriction here, which is absolutely disgusting. I ran through that in a little bit more detail last week, but what you'll see with the press downs is that I've moved the Bravo over so it's directly overhead, which is going to mean these are pretty challenging in the lengthened position and drop off a good chunk towards the short, which is where I tend to get quite a lot of elbow pain. 3 sets of 15 to 20 reps because there's nothing magic about 2 sets.
So earlier you will have seen that I was on an education call. We were talking about cardio today, the different modalities, the considerations you should have when it comes to programming that for different people based on their injuries, based on their enjoyment, based on what the actual goal is. Like, is it calorie burn? Is it health? Is it losing weight? Is it performance? Any of those sorts of things. I guess you could say losing weight and calorie burn is kind of somewhat similar. But you'll see a lot of coaches post something generic along the lines of always learning more or something like that, as if they're going above and beyond the call of duty, when in reality, continuing to develop your education is a basic requirement of being able to do the job. If you don't continue to develop your education and learn more stuff, how are you supposed to know how things change over time? Because they have changed a lot. Nobody counted macros in fucking 1960s, 70s when Arnold was around. And then macros came about, but it was really hard to do because everyone had to use an app. app because everyone had to write the numbers out by hand. And then the apps came out and they made it really fucking easy. And then there was people that were like, oh, what, let's just eat clean food, or let's do it if it's your macros, and the fucking diet wars kicked off type of thing. But that's getting beyond the point. If your coach isn't investing time into their education, whether that be nutrition, cardiovascular exercise, biomechanics, anything like that, any other shit that they're interested in that you're interested in, are they a really good coach? I don't know. Now my session is done. I'm just getting a few more steps in with my best AJ Morris impression to show everybody in the surrounding neighborhood that has no idea about bodybuilding how committed I am to this stuff, because it is vital to wear oversized tees and have your hat backwards. Anyway, rep ranges. What do we want to do with our rep ranges? You probably want to keep them fairly similar. Maybe you can't do those 5, 6, 7 reppers that you were doing in a deficit. And if you're doing any lower than that, what are you doing? Please stop doing doubles and triples as a bodybuilder. Unless you really enjoy it, it just doesn't make sense. But that's a topic for another video. So maybe you want to skew volume. You might want to skew the rep ranges up a little bit, and you might want to skew them down a little bit on the higher end. So when I'm in a surplus, I'll literally do anywhere from 6 to 20 plus reps. But when I'm in a deficit, I find those 20 reppers are incredibly taxing. So I might pull down to 15, 18, something like that type of thing. And then those lower rep sets, when you, especially towards the end, when you don't have as much cushioning around the joints, you might just want to push those 5, 6 reppers up to 8s or 10s. And you might think, oh, I'm not progressing anymore, I'm not losing as much load. Well, no, you're just in a different rep range. And that's fine. As long as you're continuing to at least maintain performance, which is getting on to the next thing I wanted to speak about, then you're going to be fine. So I am just chilling out before bed. Yes, that is a Kermit the Frog pillow, because he is cool. And that's a fact. If you disagree, you had no childhood. And that's just the truth. Anyway, I don't know why I'm tapping my nose like I've got a coke habit. What do you do with deloads when you are in a deficit? And the answer to that is pretty much, you guessed it, what you would do in a muscle building phase. However, there is one key difference, and that is that in this case, you probably do need to change your food because you've been in a deficit, and that is fatiguing in of itself alongside training. So I would suggest coming up to maintenance calories whilst you are in a deficit phase so that you can actually recover. That's going to help your recovery from training. You might not need a deload as often, seeing as we aren't like really pushing performance here and getting crazy fucking strong, as fun as that is. So still pay attention to those normal signs of your motivation to train when you are in the gym or before the training session, your overall progression. Are you seeing disruptions with your sleep or getting more and more appetite? Those sorts of things which are fairly normal to see when you would need a deload. Those are the things that I would pay attention to there. But same sort of approaches of bringing down that total volume load, whether that be with weight, reps in reserve, number of training days, all of those sorts of things. But the main difference is to bring up your food if you are in a deficit so that you can actually recover there. And that is the end of the video, people. So if you have enjoyed this one, make sure to like, share, subscribe, all of that good stuff. And stay tuned for the next one, which I will not be able to plug right now because I haven't decided what it's going to be about, because I like to keep these nice and authentic and real things only. Lactic out. I didn't press the button. Let's try that one again.